And that's why they're like this.
You know what's interesting? Nobody ever remembers the other kid.
Yeah, nobody remembers his name, but I do know he existed.
No, I know, but I'm saying, like, nobody remembers his name. And, like, a big part of him doing that was wanting to be remembered and seen. Because, like, one thing that, when you actually, like, learn about the psychology of what happened at that event, that Dylan kid, whatever his name was, which I genuinely wish I didn't even know his name, because I don't think he's really worth remembering.
Neither is the other kid.
No, but the other kid was a victim of him as well, in some ways. Like, he was very much tricked into and indoctrinated over time.
Like, groomed?
Yeah, he was groomed by the other kid because neither of them had any friends, and it was kind of a thing of like, hey, we can finally get back at them for how they treated you.
You do this and we'll be BFFs forever, we'll be famous.
Well, and...
Oh. Hello.
I kind of like these things.
I think they're cute. I like that when they fall over. I think they're trying to show you something. I think they're friends.
I think they're scared of me.
I think they're friends.
No special book here.
No special book here. They're cute. I really like them. They remind me of the little soot guys from My Neighbor Totoro.
Oh, that's funny. I could see that. Well, the final thing I was going to say about that, because I think it becomes like a very serious topic that's kind of hard to actually navigate, but yeah, they were treated very poorly by kids around them, and I don't want to say those kids had it coming, because that's not what I'm trying to say, but however, there were a lot of bullies in that school that also contributed to being a motivator for that. And you can say like, well, they still shouldn't have done it. Absolutely, I fully agree. But if that hadn't been happening, that one kid who was, in my opinion, clearly a psychopath wouldn't have been able to groom the other one into doing it. You know what I mean? Like, if there was a better learning environment and parents were actually freaking involved in it, because they literally made like manifesto tapes about how they were going to do it and stuff way before, and they were making like custom Doom levels of like their school and like going around shooting things in it and stuff, like beyond just video game violence crap like that people say. It's like, how uninvolved, I don't know how involved or uninvolved the parents were in these, but in my opinion it seems like you'd have to be pretty damn uninvolved for your kids to get to that point, and especially for your one kid to be groomed by another kid. And
to not notice that your kid literally snapped psychopathically or whatever.
Yeah, well, especially like the kid who was also sort of a victim of the grooming stuff. Where were his parents? Like, I always ask this question when violence happens in a school, or like when you have I will go through here. It's just I'm noticing doors I missed.
He must have been partly psycho too to actually go through with murdering people, though.
That's absolutely true, but there's a lot of people who like are so desperate to find somewhere to belong that they're willing to like ignore, like their morality can be twisted. Do you know what I mean?
Do you think this is a Christian school? Because I saw a cross with Jesus on it.
So it's interesting. There is Christianity, I believe, in Silent Hill. However, there's another religion that's very pervasive, which is an ancient town religion.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that is very entrenched in the society.
Interesting.
But I was just gonna say that whenever I see like a violent act like that happen in the school where people die, everybody talks about guns and stuff, and I understand the discussion. I'm not saying it's not a valid one, but keep in mind there were guns in this country forever, and there were schools in this country almost forever, and there weren't school pew-pews forever. So my question about that is like, you can say that, but like, isn't it weird to you that somehow this ramped up now? The fist is shut tight as if never to let go.
Well, I think it's because a lot of times these environments are failing and letting so many people fall through the cracks. Like failing a lot of children and such. And it's very saddening because like there's a lot of signs for a lot of different mental illnesses that a lot of these kids have because they're not being raised right, or being abused, or some other forces, because there's just so many people who are bad in this world and like to take it out on children, or maybe they just have a screw loose. And then some of these teachers, they don't notice that, and then they don't bother to report it and have this kid, like, go somewhere where they can, be in a safer environment away from maybe their family who are hurting them or bad people, or, like, be able to get the learning and help that they need. And then they fail these kids, and these kids either end up becoming really violent in school, or they hold it in until they become adults, and then they snap one day and they murder their family.
Yeah, and to add something, though, to that I think needs to be mentioned is that legally teachers do have to report that kind of stuff. However, their hands are very tied because distilled water, no reason to take it. Because, listen to this, mandatory reporting is a thing. However, like, if you think a kid belongs in special education, so, like, you think they're autistic or something like that, you legally you can lose your job by, like, reporting that, and here's why. Say there's a chemical, take it, yes. Say I'm in the school and I'm a teacher, right? And I think that your daughter has autism. If I start pushing that and saying, like, hey, listen, I think your daughter might have autism, one, I can start to get in trouble for offering medical advice, because legally you can't actually offer, like, medical advice in certain ways in this country, or you can get sued for it. You can get in trouble because only people who are doctors can do that.
But these people aren't bringing their kid to the doctor anyway.
They don't care. But also when you look at it too, the school is liable for paying for it. So what I mean by that is, if I say, hey, I think your daughter might have autism, might be on the spectrum, have you gotten her tested, blah, 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 and I start saying that and I push it, well, here's what happens. The school ends up in a situation where they have to pay for the test, not the parent, because then the parent pushes it to the school, and if the school's the one who brought it up, then they have to pay for it. And the school system is already so underfunded for what it has to do that they can't afford that. So then what you have is a bunch of
unhelped kids.
Yeah, you have, like, a bureaucratic system where teachers are told, you can't mention that because, like, your hands are tied and your job is ours. Like, we control this school. You are an employee of us. Don't cost us more money. And so then you end up in a situation where I've also seen, like, from my mom, and this was years ago, where she kind of tried to point this out to a parent, like, hey, listen, you might want to think about this, that, and this, and kind of gave the idea, and the school didn't have to pay for it, but the parent was so prideful that they wouldn't have their kid tested. My kid can't possibly be special ed, was what this parent said. As if it's, like, a horrible thing to be special ed, like you need help in some way, and that's somehow horrible. It's like, no, my kid's normal, was the response that they got. And it's one of those things where it's like, you're doing your kid a huge disservice, because what you're doing is, because of your bigotry, which is really what it is, you're being a bigot. You're saying, like, my kid can't possibly want to be one of those dummies. That's really what it is. And so you're putting your kid in a position where they need help, and you won't give it to them because you're too prideful about, like, my uterus or my sperm wouldn't produce that. And it's about you and not your kid. Up. And it's almost like a eugenics thing of, like, my kid couldn't be, like, lesser, because they view it as lesser, and then they don't get their kid that help.
And all of these kids, like, a surprising amount of kids, especially girls, because it's a lot harder to see a lot of these signs of ADHD and autism in women, because they present very differently than they do in young men. Like, they go undiagnosed until they're much older. Like, I have multiple friends who went undiagnosed with things like ADHD until they were literally in their 20s.
Yep.
And they were girls, especially. And, like, someone like you even have, like, obsessive compulsiveness that I bet you could probably get diagnosed, but nobody ever noticed it when you were younger.
That's true. Yeah, I probably am OCD, but I mean, I've always, people have said that I am, but, like, I don't think I ever got, like, a full-on diagnosis about it, other than, like, a few doctors talking about it, kind of. It wasn't like a, you need medicine or something thing.
No, I know, because it's not, like, a serious thing, but I mean, like, you were lucky enough to have parents who, if somebody, or if they notice, that you might need special help, that they'd bring you to get tested and stuff. And it seems like a majority of parents these days, obviously not all of them, but a big majority are like having kids that they really don't care to have, and then they don't really care to like do all of these things because they just don't care about their kid.
Right.
And then like that's kind of what happened. What I feel like with Dylan is he probably came home every day. His parents didn't give a shit about him. He probably went up to his room and played his Doom levels and thought about how much he hated those kids with the white baseball caps. And nobody ever gave him love or guidance.
What a dumb thing to be proud of, by the way, for those other kids having stupid white baseball caps.
Right.
Anybody can have a white baseball cap.
No, it's stupid. It was really dumb. But yeah, I don't know. It's like you need to... As a parent, it's your responsibility to, like, get your kid tested for these things. Notice when they're presenting symptoms of stuff like that, like when they go to their room every day and they don't talk to you anymore and they don't want to eat or something, or, they start obsessively playing just, like, one game, or they're having really violent tendencies, or they're, experimenting on the cat. Stuff like that. Because these are these, like, things that children do and act out, and there's many more things. I didn't list like all of them that shows when they have some sort of problem, and like so many parents these days just aren't caring or aren't looking for those.
Right.
And it's very sad. And then the schools, even if they do see them, they can't do anything about it. And it's like, okay, well, this kid's gonna grow up and not be able to fit into society, and it's gonna be one more person who will probably end up going into the overflowing prison system that isn't really helping anything.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, I think that's all. I don't know. It's not simple, but like it's amazing how many things would be solved if these two things happened. Everyone learned gun safety and the value of living life, like so that it was more difficult to come to the decision of trying to end it, and everyone's parents were involved with them as a child. Like the not like in a weird way, but like involved in their life.
I don't understand why you would make the choice to have unprotected sex and have a baby unless you were raped, and then not care about that child. I just don't understand it.
I don't know. I mean, like, I think a lot of people have like these. I think a lot of people think they do care. You know what I mean? Like, I just.
Well, they're not doing a very good job.
Well, exactly. I just think they're bad parents.
It's really sad, and I kind of feel like maybe some people should have to like take a class at some point just for like a couple of days on like how to be a decent parent before they have their kid or something.
It's difficult because I would actually agree with that. The problem is then you get into like freedom stuff where it's like, are you overriding people's rights by making the government or whoever give them a mandatory legal class on parenting?
I mean,
because like also who's the government to tell you how to parent your kids? Like, who's gonna do this?
Maybe, but also there's already mandatory education
and a lot
mandatory
of people,
education systems,
right? But a lot of people also kind of find the mandatory education system, even though it does good things, to be a little bit against what the country stands for too, because it indoctrinates people in different ways. People spread off their political beliefs on stuff. Like, it was already a stretch to get that going, even without that. But now that you have biased people sharing their biases with people...
Where did we find that thing?
In the Hand.
Oh, yes, I remember now. I didn't realize that's what we found.
I don't know. All I was going to say was I think that you then have an issue of a lot of people being frustrated with how that's run, too, and not caring for that already, and now you're making them add more onto it, like adult education that's mandatory. I'm not saying it's a bad idea. I just think you'd have a lot of pushback to that kind of stuff. And plus, like, look at you, like someone with severe social anxiety. Like, what happens to people like that when all of a sudden the government starts saying you have to take these classes?
Well,
like,
it could be an online class, that you don't even have to talk to anybody.
Maybe, but what about the people who can't afford the internet? You know what I mean? Like, that's a real thing still.
No, I mean, I feel like they could have multiple different options for multiple different kinds of people and such. It's just, there would still be that pushback and stuff like that, and it would be really hard to make something like that mandatory. And, like, who knows if people who even went to this class would even bother to, like, listen or care. You know?
That's the other problem.
Because they'd be like, well, I'm going to raise my kid however I want. And that's probably not going to be the best way for them.
Well, my other thing that you didn't answer me on, which wasn't you being rude, I just don't think you fully understood what I was saying, was like, who's going to tell you how to raise your kid? Like a psychologist? They still have their biases. The government?
I mean, that's the problem. And like all of these like teachers in schools now, like for me in Maine, most of my teachers were like super liberal and were like pushing on us how bad Trump was when I was in school because I went to school during the election. I think you might want to press the ones where the blood is the thickest, right?
Oh, you think so?
Because that's where the fingerprints are, like where they would have touched the keys. Maybe you have to press the ones that are only doing sound.
Huh. Maybe. I don't actually, like, I haven't seen... Oh, wait. There's a puzzle over there, remember?
Yeah, it's, like, said something about the birds.
Well, I think that it's, like, the notes, like C, D, all those things, which I don't actually know what a lot of those notes are off the top of my head.
Eager for the reward, white wings flailing, then came a silent dove.
A D. That's a D.
Oh, P, D.
No, there is no P. Actually, no, there's no P note. It's like A, B, C, D, E, F, G.
That makes sense. Well, they capitalize P, E, D, F, P.
Ped?
Yeah. F, D, J. So I guess that's the beginning of a sentence. They probably capitalize these because it's like a poem, actually. So that makes sense. A crow.
Yeah. So, it's interesting because there are... Did you click that again?
Oops, I accidentally pressed the map. Sorry.
That's okay, it's not a big deal. Birds without a voice. So I think this is the notes that don't work.
Uh-huh.
Like, not the ones that have a voice.
Uh-huh.
Because, some of those notes were broken.
Mm-hmm.
First flew a greedy pelican, eager for its reward. So E, probably. Then D.
E, D. Are you sure it's not flying, like F?
EDF?
No, like EF.
Well, I see an E capital. Oh, the W is capitalized, too. Wait a minute. No, because the first letter of every word is capitalized.
Yeah, like, it's a poem.
Right. Wait a minute. Can I see something? So, I might have missed a note.
A note?
Yeah, I didn't look up here. Did you know that there were these as well?
Oh, the black things? I always forget those make sound.
So these two are silent.
Mm-hmm. Are we supposed to be pressing all the silent ones?
Just a second.
Like Silent Hill. Because the hill was silent.
These two are silent. This one. And these two. So, like, we kind of need to figure out from the poem. The poem is... First flew a greedy pelican, eager for the reward, white wings flailing, then came a silent dove flying behind the pelican, as far as he could. A raven flies in, flying higher than the dove, just to show he can. A swan glides in to find a peaceful spot next to another bird. Finally, out comes a crow, coming quickly to a stop, yawning and then napping. Who will show the way? Who will be the key? Who will lead to the silver reward? So the problem... Sorry, that was my foot. The problem with this puzzle is that it relies on you understanding notes, like understanding what notes are what, like A, B, C, and stuff like that. I don't know on a piano.
I don't know them either.
What note is what, because I never really took... Well, I did take piano lessons, actually, for a few years, but I don't remember.
I was in choir, but I never learned piano stuff.
Well, a pelican with white wings flew, but then... A dove flew far beyond the pelican. So, like, white wings would be a white note, right?
Maybe,
Like
yeah.
this?
And a raven would be like the black note. And the crow would also be a black note. The swan would be a white note.
Yeah.
These are all black and white birds.
So maybe this one, because it's far from that original one, he flew far.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's a raven, which flew further than the dove.
Mm-hmm. So it would be that one next to it. Up, over. There one.
Yeah, and then there is a swan next to another bird.
The swan would be that...
This one.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then there's a crow that flies in but quickly stops.
So the crow would be the next black note. So he would be at the beginning.
At the beginning.
Yeah.
Nice.
Wow, we're smart.
Nice.
We're geniuses. We didn't look that up, right?
Well, I looked up the poem.
We just looked at the poem, which is like a part of the puzzle.
I
We
looked
didn't
at
we didn't look up the solution though.
No, we didn't. I looked up the poem.
I thought that was pretty good. We didn't like look up the answer. You know, we figured it out.
I like how you sound unconvinced that we didn't look up the answer, but I genuinely did not look up the answer.
Well, no, I'm just pretty excited about it because it's like...
It's okay to look up an answer sometimes, though, if you're confused.
No, I know, but like I'm really excited about it because a lot of times like you and Nate have a hard time figuring stuff out in the Let's Play,
Okay, well.
and then like 20 minutes later you have to look it up, and like I'm really excited that we were able to figure it out together and like not have to do that. You know, it's something that I really enjoy is like figuring out these puzzles on your own.
Yeah, well, to be fair, some of these puzzles are ridiculous in these games.
No, I know, I
like,
understand.
a white pelican flew, blah, 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 blah. It's like, okay, well, what? I don't know what that means. Like, what are you talking about? You know what I mean?
But we figured it out, and it was pretty special, wasn't it?
Well, no, I don't find it special.
I thought it was exciting.
What I was just saying, though, was that, like, some of them are way too complex.
I understand.
And I'm wondering, like, who the heck... Okay, why are you guys back?
I don't know, I guess I just like logic things and like thinking about stuff. I find it fun and figuring stuff out.
Well, I like logic, too, but sometimes the puzzles seem illogical to me.
I understand. I didn't think that one was too illogical. It was like...
That one's at least solvable.
It was trying to tell you which keys you're supposed to press to get the silver thing.
Some of these is practically like you have to come back on the third Tuesday of the month after 5 p.m.
That's true.
And it's like I don't really know how anyone would solve this ridiculous I don't know what you'd say, like prerequisite. Oh, I hate that when I click out of there and that turns off, I think something's happening.
So, since we saved, we should go to the courtyard and put that thingamajig in.
Why are you here again?
Well, because you solved a puzzle and now they're mad at you. Duh.
They're not out here, though.
Okay, let's go right there. Right there. We're gonna put it in and we're gonna solve the puzzle and we're gonna win the game.
This is not the end of the game.
We're winning the game.
By any means.
I don't know why, I get, like, really excited when we figure stuff out, or especially when I figure stuff out on my own. That's why I really like Nancy Drew games, because, like, I don't know, something I really, really enjoy in life is, like, figuring out puzzles all by myself, like, with my own brain and not having to look it up.
Well, I am genuinely happy that you were excited about it. A lot of times the puzzles annoy me.
The hands are stopped at 5 now. So, can I have your phone? Because we need to read that thing about 5 o'clock, because we already did the thing for 10 o'clock.
Yeah, I took a picture of it. I could just pull up the picture.
Yeah.